Okay, we're going to talk about cash control and how we protect it. Internal cash controls, this is an overview. We're going to concentrate on some of the terms. Some of these may be on your quiz, so I thought it might be helpful. First of all, what governs internal control of cash? That would be the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. This act mainly applies to corporations, but the principles are intact for a small business also. It kind of requires many companies to maintain strong and effective internal controls, which means you got to safeguard assets, you're going to process information accurately, and you're going to ensure compliance with laws and regulations, which would be this act right here. This act came about because of in the early 2000s, we had the Enron scandal, the Tyco, and the WorldCom, and there were many others, where employees had fraud and theft, and nobody caught it. So they came up with the enactment of this particular legislation. After the enactment or the legislature, there should be effective internal controls against the fraud and the theft. I'm not so sure because we had the meltdown in 2008 and we're still picking up from that one. There wasn't any fraud, but there was a lot of accounting activity that went underneath the radar. So this one was just the beginning. And basically what this act does or says is you should safeguard the assets of your stockholders. You should always give them accurate information, and you should always comply with all the laws and regulations, which is what we should do anyway. But this act just made it much more difficult to not be transparent with your income statements. The elements of internal control involve risk assessment. You're always going to be looking for risk. You're going to be looking for control procedures, and some of those procedures involve bank reconciliation, petty cash, separation of duties, things of that nature, so that employees cannot easily do fraud to the company. And then you're also going to monitor it, and that's probably the biggest task, is monitoring it all. And to monitor it, that all comes from your management's philosophy and operating style through the CEO, the organizational structure of how it's designed, to the employees, and personnel policy is very big here. Again, this is the monitoring. It's just going to be a circle around and around. You're always reevaluating this. And that leads us to the control procedures. You want to hire competent personnel. You want to have rotating duties, which means nobody does the same thing for an extended period of time, so that, especially when they're dealing with accounts receivable or cash, so that they can't set up a procedure where they can skim money off. You want to have mandatory vacations. Many times people who are creating fraud won't take a vacation because they know the cover-up will fall away. You want to have separation of responsibilities for related operations, and custody of assets, and accounting, and proof and security measures. If somebody were to come in and ask you how safe your assets are, you should be able to show them all the procedures that you use to protect the assets of the company. And the main asset, obviously, is money or cash. Warning signs for people who work for you, if there's an abrupt change of lifestyle, without winning the lottery. Sometimes employees will become very close and buddy with your suppliers. You want to be aware of that. There could be some under-the-table money coming across if they refuse to a vacation, as I mentioned before, or if they seem to be in money trouble. They're often borrowing from other employees, or they're using alcohol or drugs. Another one to watch is gambling. Do they have a lot of gambling debts? So things that you need to watch for is your employees, especially if they're working in the accounting department. Cash controls over receipts and payments. Probably your most liquid issue is this cash, and that includes coins and currency, checks, and money orders. Money on deposit in the bank and other financial institutions that's available for quick withdrawal. Those are all cash issues. You get it. Money comes in from a couple of sources. Cash, that you're going to get it by customers purchasing products, obviously, and making payments. And one of the most important controls, to protect that cash is over-the-counter sales is cash register. And this is a great picture. And it also shows separation of duties and responsibilities. The cash comes in. The receipts go to the accounting department, and those are recorded. The cash then is sent to the cashier's department for deposit, which then goes to the bank. The deposit slip does not come back to the cashier's department, but goes to the accounting department to compare it to the receipts. At that point, a journal entry is made. You can see how it's very difficult for somebody. The only person in this loop that could possibly be a problem would be a salesperson. And that would be, they'd have to be very slick at it. So that's your separation of duties. Can you hear my puppy dog going crazy? The other one is the control of cash receipts. You're always going to be watching that very carefully. Salespeople make mistakes, okay? And you may sometimes have cash over or cash under. That's fairly difficult with the cash registers today because they do all of the figuring. The only issue would be if somebody had a couple of tens that stuck together or ones that stick together. So, and that does happen. So you would look at your sales and say they're supposed to be $35,690, and you've only got $35,668. Well, you're short in that drawer $22. Now the next day you may be over $22 in that drawer. So it may catch up with itself. That's one of the cash over, cash under. So you have ways to safeguard cash, and one of the big ones is EFT, electronic funds transfer. Instead of having cash payments come through the mail or go through the checking system, it's an automatic digital transfer of money. That helps a lot. It also reduces late payments because those are set up and they come out of the account on a scheduled basis. Some people use a voucher system. It's kind of cumbersome, but it does keep track of payments because you can't purchase something without a voucher, and that voucher system runs alongside of your accounts payable. So there are many systems. The other way is a bank account, and I don't know too many people who just keep cash on hand anymore. It's usually all in the bank accounts. So what you have to look at when you have a bank account is your bank statement. And you always want to reconcile this thing, which is one of the activities we're going to be doing. You'll notice the legend down here that tells you what some of these are for. You'll have to kind of get used to how the bank designates some of the credits and debits to your accounts. And every bank, most of these are fairly common, so kind of get used to those. Here's a breakdown of the acronyms they use. And this is a bank reconciliation. Your bank statement may say 4,218. Your checkbook may say 4,227. And you have to look at that and say, whoops, I need to reconcile that. And you should always be able to reconcile and come up with the same balance. one way or the other. So you need to decide why you have two different balances here. And we're going to do that. We also have something called petty cash, because you don't want to be writing out checks for $1 and $2 out of your checking account all the time, so you may create a petty cash fund. We will go through that. Initially, what a petty cash fund is you'll take X dollars out and put it into a secure area, and then pay cash for small purchases and keep track of it. It has its own little accounting procedure that you will use. And finally, how do you report cash or cash equivalents? Usually it's, cash and cash equivalents, and that's anything that's liquid that can be like a bank account or possibly savings bonds, something of that nature that you can cash in immediately. And finally, one of the ratios that they look at for cash is how much cash do you have at the end of the year, and how much money do you spend monthly compared to the amount of cash you have in the account. How many months out in cash do you have that you could pay your monthly bills? So that's one way of looking at the liquidity of a business. So I hope this helps. We're going to be doing activities, like I said, for petty cash and a bank reconciliation. See you in class.